How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another pool coaching video. In today's video, I am rejoined by Nate from the CueItUp Podcast and Demetrius from MN Pool Bootcamp. Say hello, guys.
How's it going, everybody?
Good evening.
All right, so in today's video, it's going to be a little different here. If you've seen any of the previous videos that we've done, we normally have a submission where a player will play through 3 racks of 8-ball. And each of us will go through one of the racks by ourselves and provide some sort of live commentary as to what's happening. And then we'll try to find each of a spot where we can try to offer some type of advice. And then those that weren't commentating will offer one bit of advice before we move on to the next rack and someone else will go. With today's video, we have Brandon, who is only 18 years old. So this is probably one of the youngest persons that we've ever reviewed. He has been playing for 2 years. He doesn't play in any leagues because apparently you have to be 21 years old to play in the leagues, but he has tried some tournaments. But he's only been playing competitively since this year, which is actually kind of interesting considering the situation that we are currently going through. But nonetheless, he provided us only 2 racks of 8-ball that we're going to watch and review. So instead of each of us trying to take an individual rack and trying to dissect it and figure out what type of advice that we can offer him, we're going to try to basically triple team both of the racks and see what all 3 of us can actually see to hopefully help improve his game. So with all that being said, let's get started. All right, so here we are with the first rack here. Let's see how he does.
Oh, 14 and the 9 almost went. Looks like a dry break, but it's pretty square hit, pretty good spread. So nothing terrible. The cue ball, of course, coming backwards to the head rail makes that a little bit difficult, and you can see as a result of that, he doesn't have a huge selection of first shots. When I look at this table, and I know that I'm looking at it, I think stripes lays better just because the solids has a lot of congestion on the head rail. With the way the stripes are spread, maybe he can play a 3-ball combination and pocket the 9, which is exactly what happened. Not terribly sure if it was intended that way or not, or if he was playing the 7, but assuming the rules allow for that on an open table.
Well,
he's got a choice between a long... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying that you saw the way he gestured there. I think he wanted to make the 7-ball. So since he made the stripe, now he's stripes.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. It's a strange... He must be playing is that the APA rules, Chris?
Yeah. In APA, if you just drop something, especially on an open table, then that's going to be the set that you claim.
And then there, when he tried the billiard, it looks like he inadvertently clipped the 15. So now he might have to shoot this 10 ball and send the cue ball 2 rails around the 6, and or hold it for the 12. Either way. He did go 2 rails, caught that thinly to get a lot of cue ball movement. And wow, yeah, he's coming on strong. Brandon, kind of new to the pool scene, and looks like he's been putting in a lot of hours. So, ooh, yeah.
Not sure about that.
So that ball, yeah. I mean, it was a good. I'll tell you what, it was a smooth stop shot, but it was might have liked a little forward drift there. Now. So now he's got a thin cut on the 12, but he's close to it, and so it looks like he might be able to cut the 12 and either run into the 15 or go around it some which way. But he's looking at this 15 ball. So yeah.
He's not cutting that into the side, is he?
Oh, I don't know.
I would hope not.
That's a pretty.
But I like the 12 ball cut. It's not an easy shot, but it offers pretty natural positioning with just an ever so slight twist of, in this case, right hand or left hand spin. Just basically carrying it to the left of the 15 ball. You have the entire table for the cue ball to stop, and you could even use the head cushion and come back down to the center of the table. So I definitely like the 12 ball here.
Well, now,
are you saying, Nate, when you cut that in, are you trying to put a little bit of inside English on to send it to our left of the 15? Okay, yes. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he can hit that side of the cue ball with the 15 there, but anyway, that's a hard shot he just took on. That would not be That wouldn't be
It looks
any
like
of my
he wanted it though. He wanted that 15 to drop.
I like that passion though. I gotta say, you gotta love a guy that puts that kind of emotion into his shots. I do like that.
This looks like a fairly straightforward pattern here. The only thing I'm wondering about is what is he going to do with that one ball?
Well, he might have a chance to move it here.
He's definitely got a chance to get on the left side of it if he wanted to, or he could try to run into it. That looks like pretty slow cloth. Thought he gave that one a pretty good whack, and it didn't really go anywhere.
What is he planning on doing here?
One ball through the 15, looks like. It doesn't look like the carom is on. If you're playing all offense, of course. If you're playing defense, you get pretty easy safety.
It went through. Wow. Okay. I thought there was too much room. It wouldn't have enough momentum to go through it. And he finishes it off as the solids. Okay. Well, that was actually pretty interesting. I think there was only, a total of 2 innings because he started off with stripes, and then after he missed, he ran the solids out. So that was actually pretty good. But let's go back and see if there's some things that we can find.
All right. I am going to get us started here with our analysis of your playing. And I want to start out right here because we can see you have a straight and 6 ball. It's not a hard shot, pretty routine. And let's see how you execute it. So as we can see, you're down on your shot. Everything's great. You're walking around, and look how quick you get into your stance to the point where look at where your legs are. That can't possibly look comfortable for any way of shooting in a normal kind of style, right? And it's a laziness thing more than it is anything else. But you actually catch yourself, and you catch yourself because you remove the magic rack. Now, if the magic rack wouldn't have been there, let's say you removed it earlier on in your rack, would you have pulled the trigger here? I don't know. But you can see with your stance on your legs in your lower half, I mean, you look like you're almost in like a ballerina kind of stance. That's not good for executing a shot. So even when you come around for an easy straight and 5 ball, we need to have that same level of respect that we have for every shot that we're shooting, whether it's this shot right here or whether it's the 15 ball that you shot, just a few shots ago where you played it into the top left and you took a lot of time. You really measured it up well. Every shot has to get the same amount of respect as any other. Either that or you're going to end up missing silly little shots here. Maybe you carry them off the 12 ball on accident, or maybe you just miss the ball completely because your lower half is not agreeing with the upper half of your body. So now we can start it again, and you'll see that you actually move the magic rack there. You decide that you don't like that, and now let's see how you set up for the shot. It's completely different there, and I'm not sure, Chris, maybe you want to do like a side shot of the way his legs are here and the way his legs are in the previous way in some post-production. I'll give you some work to do. But we can see that this is more so your normal stance on a shot. And I think what would really help your game is let's give every shot its proper respect and not take shots for granted.
All right, I'm going to jump in here, and I'll just talk about this real briefly. After the break in 8 ball is a very important moment. There's a lot of decisions to be made, both, of course, which object ball group to shoot at, and then which opening shot to take. A lot of times those can be connected. On this break, as we mentioned, his cue ball's on the head rail, so he has limited opening options. But he does have the option. It looks like he was maybe trying to play the 1-7 past the 9. He might have been playing the 1-7 into the 9, but it looked like based on his reaction. So the point is either shot may have been available, which means he had a full choice of stripes or solids. Based on that, it's a pretty big decision to make, and I would have liked to see him take just a little bit more time to kind of decide which object ball group is best. Now, as I'm looking at this, my opinion is I would actually like to open up with stripes here and play the 1-7 into the 9 as played. And then knowing that, I would like to then not leave my cue ball stuck right by where the 1 ball is, because if I put a mark here, let's see where he ended up. I thought I put the mark there. Let's try that one more time here. we put a little mark where he ended up. You can see he doesn't have a lot of good shots. He has the 10-ball shot, which is a long way away, or he's got some type of shot where he could maybe shoot the 11-14 combo. In this case, they actually billiarded the 11 off the 14 into the side, creating other problems. The point is, if you're going to play stripes, you want to get the cue ball out of that area and out somewhere here, so that you can have another shot. And if you're going to play solids, that's fine, but just you have to really. I would have liked to see him spend a little bit more time with this decision, both on what the best opening shot was, which object ball suit was the best, and then getting the cue ball out of that spot if he shows stripes. But
Demetrius, I want to add something to there and let you take away with it. If solids was his intention because of the way he gestured after the 9-ball had fell, what do you think he would have done with the 3-ball being trapped around those stripes there?
Yeah, well, there's actually that's a good question. If he had ended up with solids, then the answer, and I think we're thinking the same thing, because there's actually another ball that's a little problematic. Is the 2-ball is not so easy to get on, and I think this is the 2-ball right here because of the location of this ball, the 15. So I'm assuming that what he would then do is play this 2 off the 14 into the side, which would then kick the 14 into the point or into the 3 and open up the 3-ball. Now, when you start moving balls around, there's always the possibility that they're going to tie back up, which is why as you get better and better, people become more and more sensitive to what part of the 14 they're billiarding off of, where it's going to hit the 3, and then picking an appropriate speed and direction to where the 3-ball floats into open space, or maybe into the 5 or past the 5 into open space by the bottom left corner. Eventually, you get a feel for that kind of stuff. But reasonably, it seems like that would solve 2 problems, the 2-ball and the 3-ball. All right. Now, as mentioned I just wanted to talk about one other thing. As mentioned, Nate mentioned that you could cut this ball in here in the bottom left corner, and that's the correct shot. But I did want to point one thing out, and this is a kind of a cool idea. So if you're going to play 8-ball, you need to know how carom shots work and billiard shots work. And there was a cool thing here, and it's a very difficult shot. It's a little advanced. But for those listeners that are tuned in, I want to give them some value. And it has to do, he looked at playing the 15 in the side. And at first he was looking at shooting the 15 directly into the side. And that's a very difficult shot. The one I'm pointing out now, the way it lays, it's pretty difficult too. But it's actually, in my opinion, if I had to play the 15 to the side, I would play the billiard off the 3. Now, for those that have tried this shot, you're probably envisioning shooting the 15 so it thins the 3 and goes in from this angle. And if you shot it that way, the 3-ball would chip and just come very short distance over that way because you're trying to hit it really, really soft and hit it really, really thin. And you're not going to make that shot. It's just you're going to hit the 3-ball too thickly. It's going to billiard into the side rail. And so therefore, for most players, they would conclude that shot doesn't work. But there's another way to make this 15 off the 3, and that is to shoot the 15 through the 3. And so instead of trying to chip it so that the tangent line brings you that way, instead of doing it that way, you're actually going to hit this one thicker. So the 15-ball is going to hit the 3-ball fairly full and just a little bit on the right side, such that the 3-ball is going to head this direction. And what that means is that the tangent line, it looks like, well, that's not going to work because now it looks like this ball should follow this dotted line into the side rail. But what we're going to do is we're going to shoot this ball with a little bit below center and a little bit not too hard. And what that's going to allow is it's going to allow the 15 ball to be rolling when it hits the 3. And as it rolls, it's going to be like we're shooting the 15 with a follow stroke, that it's going to have a roll. It's going to roll through the tangent line and into the side pocket. And so this shot, I will tell you, I've played this shot many times. If you hit the 3 too thinly, even like a half ball hit, you can't cut this 15 too much. If it's aiming like the half ball hit angle, it's going to glance too much into the side rail. If you want that 15 to sink through the 3 and into the side, like I said, you have to hit this 15 not straight into the 3. Of course, it'll follow straight through, but it has to hit the 3, 7/8 full, and then it'll sink through the 3-ball, move down table, but hopefully dribble into that side pocket. And that shot, I'm only bringing that up. It's not the right shot here. Nate already pointed out the right shot, but that's a shot that I play in a variety of situations because an 8-ball, oftentimes it's just that one ball that's kind of half tied up. And if you know that by hitting below center on the cue ball, it puts a little top spin on the object ball, and by hitting the object ball easy, it lets that ball pick up roll from the friction on the table. Those types of shots are not only possible, but when you get the feel for them, they can be good game winners. So not the right shot, but it's a shot everyone should have in their arsenal.
I think you might want to try to add a little bit more to that, Demetrius, because you said it yourself that it's a 7/8 hit. What type of pace are we talking about with the 15 ball? Because a lot of momentum is going to get taken off the 15 ball once it makes a 7/8 hit on the 3 ball.
It's a feely shot, Chris, and I'm glad you brought that up. So if you shoot this shot too easy, because you're hitting the 3 so fully, the 15 is not going to have a lot of pace after it hits the 3. However, the danger with shooting this shot firm is that the 15 ball will slide the 1.5 or the 12 to 15 inches to the 3 ball. And if that 15 ball is sliding when it hits the 3, it'll billiard along the tangent line right into that side rail. And so the two options are hit this shot softly enough to allow it to pick up roll, but still just enough speed to trickle into the side, or shoot the shot a medium speed with a below center cue ball. That by striking the cue ball below center, it actually the upward momentum on the top half, the front half of the cue ball, I don't know how else to say it, transfers a little spin and kind of sends the 15 ball, so the 15 ball's rolling right off the gate, and that way you can shoot the shot with a little bit more speed. Now, if I haven't lost everybody, if there's still 1% of the people following this, I'm going to confuse the rest of you. The other reason I like to shoot the softer speed myself, because when you shoot the shot firm, we know that when the 15 hits the 3, it starts to slide along the tangent line, and the firmer you hit it, the further the 15 is going to slide before that roll kicks in. And since this ball needs to roll through the 3 right away, we can't have it sliding into the rail. The best way to do this is the softest speed possible to still let the 15 make it to the pocket, in my opinion. So I'm shooting this fairly softly. Yes, I'm hitting it 7/8 full, but it only needs to move 6 inches into the side. So I'd shoot this with a fairly easy speed. On a 1 to 10, I'd probably be about a 2.5.
And a good way to practice it, if I can jump in here, is just get rid of the cue ball and shoot the just shoot the 15 ball with just a slightly above center hit. Don't go high on the cue ball because you're not going to be able to transfer that much, no matter how much low you have on that cue ball. You'll be able to get about quarter to a half a tip of high English on the ball, and just try to see how softly you can go through the 3 ball and make it to that side pocket. Once you're to the point where you can do it pretty consistently, then try to start hitting the cue ball into that actual carom itself. That's a good way of practicing it, just to find out the speed.
That's a great point, Nate. The only thing I'd say is at the speed I'm hitting it, that 15 will have full roll by the time it gets to the 3, because I'm hitting easy enough that the friction of the table is going to help it get rolling the rest of the way. But you're right. That's a really good way to practice it. Good call.
All right, so that was a lot of great stuff there on the 15 ball. However, I want to talk about the shot before the 15 ball, because I think that's where the crucial mistake was. Because here you shoot the 13 ball into the lower right corner pocket, and the cue ball just stops right on contact. Now, I have to believe that you probably were trying to do a drag shot, and that's where you struck the cue ball with enough below center so that there's some backspin on the cue ball, but about halfway to the 13 ball, the backspin dies out and it starts to pick up forward roll, and then that way when it hits the 13 ball, it'll actually trickle forward a little bit, and you'll have a cut angle on the 12 ball, more than likely to land somewhere right around here, is what I'm betting you were wanting to do instead of the cue ball stopping right here. Because at least if you were at this position here, you now have the ability to make this easier and then probably do just maybe some top spin just to get the cue ball to come back out here so you can shoot the 15 ball into the same pocket. And then from here, it probably looks like your 8 ball is either going to go down here unless you want to try to pull it back to go somewhere like this. So usually, unless the table is unleveled, that would be the reason to do a drag shot. Otherwise, I don't see that there's no reason why you just couldn't do a center ball hit. You've heard Demetrius comment before about how the cue ball will actually just glide across the table for a moment, and then the friction of the table will finally grab the cue ball and start to roll forward. And from what I've seen, on average, a center ball hit will probably get the cue ball to slide all the way to over here. And then it's going to pick up its forward momentum as it starts to trickle its way over to the 13 ball. You know your table better than anybody else, but this is probably what I think you were wanting to do. I just don't think we executed it appropriately with the drag shot that you had in mind. So if you were wanting to do the stop shot, well, then I think what Nate suggested that you probably should have shot the 12 ball instead. So, Brandon, this is what we can see for the first rack that you did here because you did everything in 2 innings, which is freaking awesome. But let's see what we can find in the second rack. All right, so here we are with rack 2. Let's see what you got on this one, Brandon.
Well, I'm going to keep my eye open, see if he comes at us with the flamingo stance.
I hope not.
Come on, Brandon. We're just giving you a hard time. Nice break.
Another good straight
same
on
cue
hit.
ball drifted back.
Yep, I think that's the first thing that I see is let's try to tighten up that cue ball a little bit.
So we saw the
Yeah, I mean, there's
12
almost
ball.
Yeah. So, Chris,
Stripe.
is he stripes now because he made a stripe, or does he have an open table? Or does it matter because that's maybe his only shot? Well, no, I guess he can choose solids. He may not have a choice. That may be.
It would all really just depend on what rules he's playing by. So he attempted to shoot a solid even though he made a stripe on the break, so that's not APA rules.
So now he is able to take whatever he wants, or he has to take his stripes. He must be taking his stripes because that's what he's looking at. So his 11 ball's definitely an issue. The 10 ball's not in a bad spot, but with that 4 ball there, getting off of the 10 ball to another ball could be an issue because it's harder to do that. If he's going to take the solids there, I like the 6 ball. It opens up his 7 ball. Yeah, this is looking pretty tough from here. He still has that 6 ball I was talking about before, but now he's shooting it from the length of the table instead of a foot away, and he's got a little bit of a bridge impediment with the 15 ball.
Good shot, though.
Nice shot. But, again, if he would have been closer, like Nate said, he might have been able to control the outcome a little better because although, you know what would be cool is if he could play this on the right-hand side, he might even have the angle to slide between the 1 and the side rail and somehow get short side shape on that 1-2. That'd be a nice 1-2 knockout. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, if you're, I see what you did there. If you're going to be running out, I think you have to be shooting that shot.
Right, he elected the 4 ball and scratches.
Kerplunk.
Okay. Well, these stripes are open, but the 14, little, you know,
funny,
here's the interesting thing. When we think about the toughest balls to get on, it's going to be the 14. But then when we think about the best key balls, right, but when we talk about the best key balls, we're also talking, you know, so it's like you don't want to start on the, you know, you either have to leave your problems for last or you have to work your way the wrong way to the table. And I think you're right, Nate. I think it does go in either pocket. He could shoot it now even, which would probably be better because now he's, yeah.
Well, you definitely don't want to be saving it for last. Both of those balls there offered basically a stop shot to be able to get a straight-in 14 ball into the bottom left. But now he's got to play a really good positional shot to get onto that ball or take a really difficult pot to get to there. But I think he can get this, if he can draw this back just a little bit, he can maybe shoot the 10 ball to the side and drift down table. Now he's got.
He might still be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think he can shoot it to the side and just kind of drift down in between the 7 and the 14 ball. But he hit it. Okay, he hit it good.
It's a great shot right there.
Yeah.
8 ball should be going in the same pocket, I would think. Yep.
That's a nice play he made right there. That was a very nice speed. He didn't get tied up on the 4. He didn't freeze on the rail. And he's not flamingo stancing.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Wow. I think that was another short inning match, though. So, I mean, let's go back and see if we can find something.
All right, I'm going to get us started here. We're going to have 4 different little clip areas, and these are kind of the side views where we're actually kind of getting to see you across the side of the shot. And what we're going to be looking for, we have right here the tip of the cue, and we can draw ourselves a nice line all the way back to here, the end of your cue. And what we can see is there's a pretty good chunk of elevation on this shot. So let's go to the next shot now, and let's see what it looks like there. All right, here we are for the second one. And again, we're going to draw our line all the way across our cue. And we can see again that there is a pretty good amount of elevation. Of course, we're on the rail here, but that doesn't mean that you have to jack into the cue ball, especially since you wanted to come across the table here and back over, I think, to get back over into here. So actually elevating the cue is going to get a little bit less foul on the ball, although I think you're trying to come over in more of a this way as opposed to the forward spin that you would get normally. I'm not going to talk about this one, but I think it's actually better to come down here anyways, because then you have potentially the 2 ball here, 1 ball here, 2 ball here. You have a lot more options, and maybe even the 1 ball here too. So you can kind of get in this big, giant area up here and really have a good opportunity at a shot, as opposed to getting over back into this area. All right, there's a lot of things on the screen right now. I'm only talking about this elevation part, but I wanted to just mention that while we were here. All right, so let's move on to the next shot. All right, and here we are again for another shot. This one, you are not elevated, or I should say you are not on the rail, meaning you're not on the rail from elevation. But again, we can kind of see this elevation that we can see in this cue. If we draw kind of a straight line over, which should be about where your hips are, something like this is about flat, and we have this much elevation. That's a pretty healthy amount of elevation on our cue. All right, I wanted to just point that out here while we have this good angle. All right, so let's move on to our last example. And here we are for the 8 ball. Of course, you don't need to do anything with your cue ball here. So following it forward, there's nothing wrong with that if you follow forward to, like, say, right in here. There's no real scratch opportunity here. But what we're seeing here is, again, we have here, and we can see the butt of your cue is right back here. So we can see that there is this much elevation in your cue. Again, we can go back to kind of somewhere right around your hips area. We expect to be somewhere close to flat. And this one, we have this much elevation. That is a lot of elevation. And so what I would advise doing is try to shoot this 8 ball right here. Set the shot up at home, because obviously you have a table at home. Set the shot up here, and instead of hitting the center of the cue ball like you would normally do for a cue or a shot like this, let's set it up and let's try to hit 1 tip of outside spin or 1 tip of right hand spin, and then go to a half a tip of outside spin or inside spin, and then do a quarter tip of inside spin and outside spin, and see how those different levels of off center affect the shot itself. And I think what you're going to find is it is extremely easily at this kind of elevation to really masse the cue ball in weird ways that we're not trying to do. And it's really going to affect the cue ball in the direction of the 8 ball that you're trying to actually make. So, of course, you can just say, well, while I'm hitting the center of the cue ball, what does it matter? Well, it matters in a sense of when you're not exactly feeling it, you're not exactly playing your best game, you're not exactly in the zone, and you're getting just a little bit squirrely. It's hard to control a lot of different things. And when you elevate your cue this often on pretty much just about every single shot, you can actually go through and watch a lot of these. You elevate your cue significantly more than you need to. If you're not striking the cue ball quite as well on any given day, and maybe you can see this in your game, there's days where you just cannot find it. It seems like you're missing shots like crazy left and right, whatever it is. I think when you're trying to control a variable like elevation on your normal shots, it's going to make it really, really, really tough to be able to do a lot of the shots that you're doing at a consistent rate. So I would say let's try to find a way to get your cue somewhere closer. Even if you're shooting off a rail like this, let's try to just hit with the high ball, whatever the rail gives you, or the shot gives you, and let's try to get your cue down to here, somewhere in here, so you're about a third the elevation. And let's try to actually start building that into your game regularly, so that when we have shots, even going back to this 15 ball, for example, because this is one that you definitely do not need to elevate on, we can see that you're elevated still, and we don't need to have that elevation here. even when you're drawing the ball, right? I mean, you want to be even more level when you're drawing a ball than elevating. So I would say let's start working on that and getting that elevation out of your game. It's going to help you out a lot when it comes to recreating a lot of the shots that you're doing. And to be honest, just missing less balls.
All right, well, here's where I wanted to make the comment on after you had scratched on solids and now you have stripes, and you decided to start with the 9 ball. Now, even though you started with the 9 ball and you were successful, this is a principle that I say a lot even to my APA teammates and other players that I have reviewed before, and that is I don't like the idea of starting at one end of the table and then moving to the other end of the table only to have to return back to the other half of the table if you can help it. And since you have ball in hand, you can certainly help it in this case here, which is why I really wouldn't suggest starting with the 9 ball. I would have started with probably any one of these 3 balls and then used the 9, 11, and 14 to finish the table off in order to play the 9. So we already saw that the 9 ball went into the corner pocket. So if I were to give you an entirely different run out, it would probably look something like this. Cue ball in hand here, shoot the 13 ball into the corner pocket. You can just stun over here for the 15. 15 goes into the pocket where your hand is. You can even do a stop shot. 10 ball into the side pocket, and then now you're set up for the 9 ball. And you can see your cue ball movements are a whole lot smaller. And when your cue ball movement is smaller, it's much more easier to control and giving you a higher chance at being successful. Now again, you were successful with this run out, so it's not like there's anything wrong. But since you had a lot of cue ball movement, there just is the possibility that something can go wrong. And all I'm suggesting here is if you can minimize your cue ball movement, you'll have a higher chance at being successful.
All right. So I wanted to point out, I agree with Chris, everything he said about minimal movement, circling your way from the top left corner to the bottom right corner. What I'd like to point out is something about how he handles this trio of balls with the 9, 11, 14. And this is a pattern that comes up all the time when you have balls laying near the rail. And so what he did is now I know that he gave himself ball. He had ball in hand here, so he chose to be straight on the 9. So this wasn't like an accident where he played himself out of line on the 9 ball. He put the cue ball there. So I wanted to show you guys something about this type of shot. So what I'd like to do is switch over to this 4 ball for a minute. And I want to tell you my theory, which is I like shots where I'm playing my cue ball, where I'm cutting the ball and playing into the rail. And the reason for that is these back cuts, by not going into the rail, you can't use side spin to change the cue ball's direction, which means that coming from here, if I slid the ball, here's the tangent line, but how much can I really change the cue ball's direction using high and low? Well, if I used high ball from here, I could probably follow it, this direction. And if I used a good low ball, I could maybe get to the side pocket, something like this, depends on your draw stroke. So that gives me a little bit of range as to where I send the cue ball. But it's very difficult, first of all, to control the speed and also to get it to come backwards. You really need a good stroke. It's very speed sensitive, tip sensitive, not so easy. Now, on the other hand, let's give myself the same cut angle from the other side of this line. Now let's ask what our range is using both spin and using both high and low and side to side. Well, if I shoot this ball with high left spin, I can sink through the ball to here, and I can spin, all the way down to here. Or if I use low right spin, well, I could certainly hit here and get all the way up to here. And so that means, and now I know there's been a lot of lines, but if you look at I could basically, to put it another way, with going into the rail, I could hit anywhere from this point on the end rail to this point on the end rail up there. Because by playing into the side rail, I unlock side spin, and that allows me to control my cue ball direction and my cue ball speed. Best of all, if I wanted to bring my cue ball backwards, I don't really need to draw my ball. I can use a sliding ball. I can use a stun shot with just a little bit of right spin and get my cue ball to go as far back as I needed to in almost any situation. So on this shot, taking what we know, which is I like to play angles to go into the rail, instead of stopping on the 9 ball, what he ends up doing is having a back cut. We can look at, he gets this back cut on the 11 because he has, and what we saw is how tough that back cut is to control. Now he could hit a little on the full side of the pocket, hit really good draw, hit really soft speed, But boy, is this a difficult shot to control to try to get on the 14 ball from here. And so what I would suggest is, and I'll see if I can come back just a hair, just a tickle. Is that not far enough here? Let's just pause it here and say, suppose that we had put the cue ball on the other side of the 11 here, it would be much easier to either roll the 11 in and play the 14 in the bottom left, or if you needed to come across, it's much easier to do so. So the shot I would recommend working on would be with ball in hand. Give yourself a little bit of angle on the 9 so that you can slide over to the middle of the table side on the 11. I think you're going to have a lot more luck controlling the cue ball playing into the rail as opposed to back cutting it.
Well, basically where you stopped right now, right? Like that would be a perfect spot.
Yeah, actually that's pretty close to a good angle. I might like a little bit more. I don't like to shoot my balls firm. I think that he's flat enough on this 9. He might still have to shoot this with a firm stroke to get the cue ball to bounce off the rail. I'd probably want to be where the 15 ball is towards the 9. That's the angle I like on that 9 ball, so I could shoot. I like to shoot soft speeds.
Well, all right, Brandon, with these 2 racks that you gave us, you still played magnificently. So it's a little difficult for us to be able to find things. So we hope that the details that we were able to dive in on those 2 racks, you can actually try to find to be useful and be able to still continue to improve your game. I think the biggest thing that I want to go off of is what I pointed out on this rack here with you when you had ball in hand with the stripes. And that is to just minimize your cue ball movement when possible. Right, you're not always going to get to do that, but that should be a very good rule of thumb that you should always try to do, at least in 8 ball. Most of the time, like in rotation pool, like 9 ball or 10 ball, there's going to be a lot of cue ball movement because of where the balls are actually going to be placed. But in 8 ball, when you have sets of stripes or sets of solids, typically your cue ball movement is just going to be smaller or should be smaller. But from time to time, there will be shots where you do have to let your cue ball go. But I think if you just try to stick with that and keep your cue ball movement smaller, and piggybacking off of Nate comment with your cue ball or your cue elevation, that should also help keep your cue ball movements smaller, because we don't want to have those risky errors where you might accidentally put side spin on the cue ball when you shoot and then just end up missing the shot. Nate, you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're, according to Chris, you're 18 years old. You've been playing the game for about 2 years. It's a bummer that the state that you live in and play in is not receptive to you playing in leagues, but a lot of the leagues happen in bars, whatever. It kind of depends on the state. It's a bummer that that's the case, but it's good to see that you're still hitting the balls. You're at a really, really fun stage in your pool career right now. My advice more than anything is just enjoy this time. And what I mean by enjoy this is you get to play pool, and almost week by week, month by month, you get to actually see yourself improving. And this is really the most fun you're going to have at this game. From here, the strides become slower, they become more grindy, and it really is. That's what it is. It's a grind. So really, just enjoy your time with your pool game right now. You have a lot of things coming together nicely. There's a couple things that we pointed out in here that you can incorporate into your game at an immediate level, and you can really start seeing what that's going to look like as far as improving. But I mean, just by hitting the balls, we can see that you have all the tools here to really play at a pretty high level. So just enjoy the game and just have fun with it. So I mean, that's my advice. Demetrius, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. I agree. For being 2 years in and actually only playing competitively this year, and is given the limited opportunity, I'm really impressed with how good he is for a beginner new to competition. One of the things I really like about his game is he's very comfortable and fluid. I've seen a lot of players that are forced, a lot of players that hit the ball too hard, a lot of players that are too mechanical. He shoots very comfortably and fluidly, and I really like that. He has a good feel for the game. So I think that's great. I think what I'd like to see him do, the one danger, he is getting better week by week, and that happens when you're a newer player, and it is a fun part of the journey. But what happens is there's a diminishing returns because, I'll tell you, it's like my Mortal Kombat. Since I'm wearing this mask, I look like one of those Mortal Kombat, guys. And so I'll tell you, Brandon, when I was a teenager, Mortal Kombat. I'm kind of dating myself, but there was an arcade that had Mortal Kombat. And I played Raiden, who's the character. You can look him up. Anyway, I could always, when I put in my quarters, I beat the first guy. It was 2 out of 3 fight rounds, and I beat the first guy 2 rounds to 0. And then I'd beat the second guy, and it would be 2 rounds to 0. Then I'd play my third opponent, and it would always be 1-1. I'd win the third round barely, and then I'd play the fourth round, and I'd always lose to the fourth bad guy. And I played that thing every weekend or whatever, for, I don't know, a couple months. And that's just how I played it. That's as far as I ever got. To this day, I've never gotten past that guy. And the reason why is because the game started easy. I only knew a few moves. I did the same stuff, and I got the exact same results. And I feel like with pool, a lot of people, it's like if I wanted to get further, I would have had to have learned new skills, new techniques. A lot of people with pool treat it the same way. You've got a certain skill set where you can shoot in balls, you can stop balls and drag balls and roll balls. You know a little bit about a couple rail patterns. We saw you do 1 or 2 rails around the horn. But I feel like with your toolbox, there, what it's lacking is, not due to your fault as far as being inexperienced, but just what you're going to see in your future is going to be side spin. It's going to be more precision and a little bit better planning between, solving patterns. So a little bit more tools, a little bit more skill assembling those tools. And so that's not going to happen if you don't dig for it a little bit. If all you do is run around tables and shoot balls in loosey-goosey, you're going to get better because you're going to get better at executing what you already know the way you already know how to do it. But that curve of improvement will taper if you don't keep getting a healthy diet of new tools and new strategies. So what I'd like you to do is when you have a challenging situation come up, like for example, go back to the first rack where you had the one ball in that corner that didn't go anywhere and you had an open table with solids. Set those balls up and see if you can't find a way to run out with solids and deal with that one ball as a problem. And here's the deal: if you can't figure it out, because if you don't have the tools or if you don't know how to do it, ask somebody that does know how to do it and learn something and practice it until you have a new skill. And what you'll learn in terms of those tools and how to solve that problem will allow you to solve so many other problems that it's just going to pay exponentially. So here's my offer. I do 3-day pool boot camps. Of course, if you ever wanted to come up to Minnesota and train pool for 3 days, I'd send you home a different player. Anybody that's interested can go to my website, mnpoolbootcamp.com, MN like Minnesota. But my email is on there, info@mnpoolbootcamp.com. So you can take an email, you can take a screenshot of a rack that you set up and tried. You can email it to me, and I promise, if you can't run out, I'll show you how I run those balls out. And I'm happy if you need somebody in this COVID time to help guide you through. Of course, I'd love you to come train here someday, but I'm always happy to help remotely if you're just needing a little guidance.
I actually really like the Mortal Kombat analogy there. Nate, why don't you give a plug for the CueItUp Podcast before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, if you hate your life and you want to find some new things to listen to, Demetrius and you'll be able to catch us at least once a week, generally speaking. You'll get to catch me a little bit more than that. I just did a recent interview that I released, I believe, on Friday with Alex Lely, the European Mosconi Cup captain, where we talk all about the upcoming Mosconi Cup. We'll have, of course, several guests on throughout the weeks, throughout the months, throughout the years. It's a totally free podcast. It's free to listen to. You can learn a lot on the podcast. We talk about a lot of things we talk about here, sometimes in more depth, sometimes a little bit more skimming. But it's basically just pool content. So if you're looking for more pool content, you can't get enough. You got that bug. You need to scratch that itch. It might be another way of getting that figurative pool scratch. So, yep.
All right.
Whatever. Check it out. We're on all major podcast forums.
All right, that's awesome, guys. Well, Brandon, this is pretty much what we got for you here with the 2 well-executed racks here. We hope that the information that we were able to provide you can find helpful and be able to use to improve your game. Nate, Demetrius, thank you for joining me for another pool coaching lesson here. And so if you like what you saw, just give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and all the information to the CueItUp Podcast and MN Pool Bootcamp can be found in the description below. Take care, everybody.